My lasting impressions of The Devils by Dostoyevsky, 27 years after having read it. This is my second favorite Dostoyevsky book after The Idiot. And like The Idiot, I'm sure I went over my favorite parts after having read it. As I've said before, Dostoyevsky's plot structure is awful. It's really never about the story as much as it's about the relationships between different types of people. As I said before, Dostoevsky almost always has an idiot character, like the clown of a character, who's self-pitying and self-mocking and constantly like drowning out conversations with, like, draining all the air from the room with, "Oh, I know I'm terrible. Yes, you're right. I am stupid. I am an idiot. Yes, I hate myself." But meanwhile, he's totally cool with it. And Dostoevsky usually has a character who thinks that he's more intelligent than everybody else and operates purely on his intellect. But in The Devils is different. It's also known as the possessed or the demons, depending on the translation you get. I remember when I told my friend to read it, he came back to me and he goes, the first whole 100 pages are just backstory about some character that never even shows up. And I'm like, yeah, Dostoevsky does that. The first 100 pages you may as well skip. And I don't exactly mean that. I just mean, if you're a casual reader and you just want to get to the juicy parts, like I am and did, then that's what you do. But I did read the first 100 pages. So The Devils, in very short, is it's about a political conspiracy, like a group of young 20-year-olds who are highly intelligent, really clever, but one in particular, who want to take over Russia. But I'll start with one of the main characters who wants nothing to do with this conspiracy, and his name is Nicholas Stavrogin. And basically, his story, as far as I remember, is simply that he's like the most handsome, eligible bachelor in town. He comes from a very rich family, and very well-respected family. And basically all the girls in town want to marry him. And he, instead, just to embarrass his family, he marries a Down syndrome girl. Just to mock his family. The other main character is like a 20-year-old named Peter Verkovansky. Stavrogin's about in his 20s too, I think. And Peter Verkovansky is basically the guy, the ringleader of the political movement that he's trying to start to take over, in order to take over Russia. And he badly wants Stavrogin to be part of it. Stavrogin wants nothing to do with it, and Peter Verkovansky is awesome. Like, he talks really fast and he's smarter than everybody. Like, think of Ben Shapiro, but if Ben Shapiro was smart. Peter Verkovansky's always playing mind games, manipulating people, outwitting everybody. And come to think of it, I'm like, wow, were politicians, were they intelligent once? Could it be that they weren't always as stupid as they are today? But no, I don't think so. I think this one's just as smart as Dostoevsky, because Dostoevsky's writing him. There was one memorable scene where Peter Verkovansky gets somebody, I think it might have been Stavrogin. He just says, "Please, just come to this meeting that we're having. Please come." And it's like, "What do you want me to do? I don't want anything to do with this." And he's like, "You don't have to do anything. Just stand there with some paper and pretend to be taking notes." And then the third main character, I wouldn't call him a main character, but would be a guy named Kirilov. And Kirilov's whole thing is that he believes that if he unlives himself, as they say on YouTube, then that's the purest form of will that a human can do, is to unlive themselves consciously, right? To undo yourself purely out of will. And I don't really understand this idea of his, but Dostoevsky's not the only one who's thought of this idea of that undoing yourself as a pure act of will being the most evolved thing a person can do. So at some point, Peter Verkovansky, he knows about Kirillov's plan, and he says, okay, well, if you're going to do that, then how about after we've committed all these crimes, we'll pin them on you. And Kirillov says, sure, do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm happy to, be the scapegoat. Well, no, he doesn't say I'm happy to be the scapegoat, but you get it. He's like, I don't really care. It doesn't matter either way to me. And you know what? That's all I really remember about it. I don't remember what happens because a lot of it is way over my head because it's about politics in Russia, and I probably missed most of what they're talking about when they're talking about, what Russia should be and blah, blah, blah. I think it's called The Devils just because these are bad people. But my enjoyment, my love of this book stems from the personality development of these characters, how realistically Dostoevsky does it. You could swear they're real. And just their pure conversations. It's just a lot of fun. And all three of these characters that I listed, they all challenge each other mentally, but also emotionally, and on like every level. So it's some of the best dialogue ever written. Come to think of it, I've read everything but one book by Dostoevsky, and I can't really make out a plot in any of them. And whatever plot I can, even when I can make out the plot, I'm not too impressed with the plot. He's a character guy. I have a friend who's a political sociology expert, who's pointed out all these political messages that Dostoevsky's making, which went way over my head at the time and still would. But while I'm on the subject of politics, I would say, as I've said, and every time Dostoevsky comes up, he would be rolling in his grave if he knew about what's going on right now in Russia. But I'm sure Dostoevsky predicted that this is what might happen if we don't, if we Russians don't, I'm not Russian, take care of ourselves and, figure shit out. So now I'll skim over a ChatGPT brief synopsis of the story to see if there's anything that jolts my memory. And to just inform. Okay, the devils, also known as the demons or the possessed, is one of Fyodor, I think is correct, Fyodor Dostoyevsky's most politically charged novels, published in 1872. Now, I know that Dostoyevsky was born in 1821, so if I'm any good at math, that would mean Dostoyevsky was 51 years old. Which is noteworthy because this shows he's at his height. This would be one of his most mature books. It's a dark and satirical look at the radical movements of 19th century Russia and how extremist ideologies can lead to chaos and destruction. What I think is important to note when they say satirical, okay, yeah, it's funny, but not everybody knows that satire also, it basically means warning. So 1984 is a warning, that book by George Orwell. Yes, South Park is a satire, but it's also a warning. That's why, so it's funny, but it's pointing out, look how stupid it can get if we go in this direction. So a satire isn't always funny. As long as it's a cautionary tale, that qualifies it as satire. But now I'm questioning myself. Does that mean Little Red Riding Hood is a satire? Maybe it does. Yeah, I just Googled it, and Red Riding Hood could be considered a satire. So if you didn't know this before, then it's really worth putting it in your head that whenever you hear the word satire, always think cautionary tale. And when you think of my channel, Human Warnings, well, that's what a satire is. It's a human warning. The novel is set in a provincial Russian town and explores the rise of revolutionary nihilism among a group of young radicals. Inspired by real-life political conspiracies in Russia at the time, Dostoevsky critiques the consequences of radical ideology and its moral and social implications, which makes me think about, I bet you Dostoevsky was reflecting on how he was once involved in a conspiracy which ended up sending him to a Siberian prison for 10 years, which led him to write House of the Dead. Key characters: Nikolai Stavrogin, a charismatic but emotionally hollow aristocrat who embodies the themes of moral decay and existential crisis. Pyotr Verkovensky, a manipulative revolutionary who seeks to spread chaos and violence. Yeah, he kind of is like the Joker. Shatov, a former radical who turns towards nationalism and spirituality, symbolizing moral struggle. I don't remember him. Kirillov, a philosopher obsessed with the idea of free will and undoing oneself. I'm putting that in place of the real word, as an assertion of absolute autonomy. Stepan Verkovensky, Peter Verkovensky's father. I don't remember him. You know, the first 100 pages of the book are all about him, and I don't even think he shows up throughout the rest of the book. An intellectual who once sympathized with liberal ideas, but is now out of touch with the radicalism of the younger generation. So I might as well read out the plot summary since I don't remember it. The story follows the decline of a small Russian town as it becomes a battleground for ideological warfare. The novel begins with Stepan Trofimovich, a failed liberal intellectual, and his relationship with the wealthy Varvara Stavrogina, the mother of Nicholas Stavrogin. Their discussions set the stage for a larger ideological battle to come. Nicholas Stavrogin returns from abroad carrying a mysterious past, including hints of unspeakable crimes, which are later revealed in the censored chapter, Stavrogin's Confession. I think I read that. That's wasn't allowed at the time when it was published. This book was published. He fascinates and disturbs everyone around him. Meanwhile, Peter Verkovensky, his childhood acquaintance, forms a secret revolutionary group exploiting the town's discontent. He orchestrates acts of violence and manipulation to destabilize the social order. Peter convinces his fellow radicals to murder Shatov, who has renounced their cause. Okay. This act symbolizes the moral corruption of the movement. Kirillov, who believes in proving human freedom by undoing himself, ultimately does so as part of Peter's plan. The town descends into chaos, arsons, riots, and a grotesque, debauched masquerade ball, serving as metaphors for the disintegration of morality. Stavrogin, burdened by guilt and existential despair, ultimately undoes himself. I don't remember that part. In one of the novel's most haunting moments. I guess it didn't haunt me that much. Peter, realizing his revolution has spiraled out of control, flees. Don't they all? Themes and interpretation. The dangers of ideology. Dostoyevsky portrays revolutionary nihilism as self-destructive and disconnected from morality. Doesn't that remind us of something? Like this present time, for example. The nature of evil. The novel explores how people justify evil under ideological pretexts. Moral and spiritual decay. Stavrogin's existential crisis represents the loss of moral compass in a world rejecting faith and tradition. Jesus, it's like he's writing about right now. Prophetic vision of totalitarianism. Dostoyevsky eerily anticipates the rise of radical movements in the 20th century, and the 21st, I will add. ChatGPT's conclusion. The Devils is a powerful, dense novel that combines political critique with deep psychological insight. It's Dostoyevsky's darkest and most prophetic work, foreshadowing the horrors of radical extremism that would shape modern history. Yeah, I would be advised to. I would be well advised to reread this book, but I know I'm too lazy to do it. But I bet you this book is says everything about what's going on right now in the United States. But even better, it does so with actually intelligent characters rather than the characters that are causing all the problems right now in the United States right now, who are complete morons on every side and on every level and from every angle. I always said, I don't like so-and-so, certain political people in North America. I'm in Canada. It's not that I disagree with them, it's that they're so stupid, right? I agree with what so-and-so says, even though I don't like him. But it's that he's so stupid. That's what is so distasteful for me, and that's why I don't want them in power. Anyways, the more comments, the more likes, the more subscribes, the more bells rang, the quicker I am likely to make more Dostoyevsky videos. The less, then the less likely. Maybe I'll switch back to movie reviews. But no matter what, I want you to promise me that you're going to have a nice day.